Revolution.radio. That's right. Listen to Funded Radio. Yes, which means please donate if you can. Any kind of currency is good, including crypto. Really easy. Just go to the website, Revolution.radio. Really important. You can't donate, that's cool too. Just tell people on station. Tell people about Dave and Mackie and Shiny Side Out and Platos Cave and many others, such as Solaris or Mitchell Bob. Just come and tell people about the station because it ain't free to run this thing. We don't get paid, so if you're worried that we're gonna get obscenely rich, it's not gonna happen today. Maybe one day, but not today. So if you can, please do. Because we are home to ideas that are fresh, uncensored, and free. Free. We can express ourselves freely. We don't have an agenda. We don't have anyone to please. We don't pander. Just giving you the straight 5 and the crooked 8. The crooked 8 and the straight 5. That's what it is. Today is the 10th of June, 2025. The Lord's year 2025. That's right. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, and on your smart device. That's on the line all the time. So grab it up to listen anywhere, or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio, especially in winter. Just snuggle yourself nicely into whatever kind of sofa or seater you have, and just get a blanket and a nice cup of cocoa, and some cookies, and just listen away. But you know what? Archives are free. Another good reason to donate. Oh, tell people about the station because the archives are free. You can.
They're what now?
Gratis, umsonst, for free, and nothing, nada. No down payment, no afterpay. That's right, just completely free.
No ETC.
So you can grace all the content that you want. That's right. Eat all! Eat free! Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, which we will momentarily, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast, even if it has fallen out of fashion elsewhere. And for Dave, that would be...
the Dark and Jung.
Thank you, sir. For myself, of course, the Rock people, and we would like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. Thank you very much for letting us do that. Dallas, I actually bought this T-shirt at Fort Worth Airport, believe it or not, some years ago when I traveled through. I love that airport. I love Fort Worth. Dallas, Fort Worth. It's like a combined airport. I stayed at the Hotel Anatole. It's a Hilton hotel, I think. Massive. It was for a conference. We went there a few years, 3-4 years, because our CEO lived near there, had a farm or like a ranch in Texas somewhere. Anyway, love America. Can't say I'm loving what I'm seeing at the moment, but I do love America. I like it, the country, the people, and it's not really a generic America that we're talking about here. America is diverse. It's as diverse as, probably more diverse than many other countries in the world. It's a completely different country every 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers you travel, right? Even in New York, Manhattan, you're walking from one end to the other. It's anything but homogeneous. It's a patchwork of cultures and peoples, languages, foods. That's for me. Foods is my thing. But yeah, so I love America. I don't love what's happening to America right now. It's Dave. I'm surprised at the rapidity with which this is all happening. We spoke about this before, I know, but because Dave and I were wondering, because we looked at our timelines here, right? We knew something was going to happen in 2019, 2020. Our little algorithm told us that, the awareness cascade. If you're a listener to the show, both here and Shiny Set Out, you know what I'm talking about. Suffice it to say, we actually did predict the coronavirus outbreak. And it's on record, so you can go and look for yourself. And we did that, several years before it happened. And we thought it'd be biological because honestly, I thought that's cheapest. It's
the most cost effectiveness.
Yeah.
ROI's right at the
100%.
top. First day.
100%. Exactly. And look, chemical is nasty. Nuclear any radiation is nasty. Bacteriological would be nasty as well. So I always thought it'd be viral, but that's neither here nor there. So we did predict that. But We spoke about how quickly things had been moving ever since 9/11. It's hard to remember, I guess, that far back. I mean, Dave and I were old, old, but but I remember that my childhood was filled with endless summers and endless winters, and it's just as I collect them, they all sort of meld into one, if you will, one summer, one winter. Of course, that's not the case, but it certainly felt like I had all the time in the world. You know, summer holidays in Germany, they were like 6 weeks in school. You know, or July, August normally, and just the best 6 weeks of the year. And
tell me about
winter,
it.
You know, Christmas, right? Christmas holidays were fantastic as well. I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks in Germany over Christmas. Anyway, my point is that time seemed to flow differently. Time seemed to be more gentle with us in those days. Now, you can argue that, okay, as you get older, you have more responsibilities, your time is shortened because you spend a lot of it at work, you've got other responsibilities, so your days are a lot more segmented, and they seem to be moving faster, maybe. But I do believe, and I think there's some evidence in some research that's been done, that the Schumann frequency is actually accelerating, and that's the sort of the background frequency of the world. And I think other things are speeding up as well. I think that there's actually such a thing as the speeding up of time, which we are witnessing.
People have been calling it the quickening.
Well, yeah, exactly, the quickening. So, and ever since 9/11, certainly, I remember this. I remember the night when it happened because I was watching the whole thing up in my little attic, and things were moving very, very fast. But what has happened ever since the pandemic, except the funny thing is this, Dave, during the pandemic, things seem to slow down. And slow down in the sense that every day felt like molasses, and it sort of oozed into the next day. There was no clear delineation between the days because you couldn't leave your house. Not that I really listened to that, but it was harder to perceive time, to feel time, to experience time, right? Things were just, really slow in that sense. But then after the pandemic, and certainly in the last year, things have taken a massive leap in speed. If you look at the development of things in the world, and this is I'm talking specifically political, geopolitical, economic, and I guess military developments over the last year, over the last couple of years, the rapidity is frightening with which it happened. At the same time, though, we see an increase in natural disasters. We're not imagining it. There are more. We've got the graphs. We've looked at the graphs. We've looked at the storms. We've looked at the earthquakes. We've looked at the fires. We've looked at the floods. And we had to invent, mind you, like this is true. We had to invent a new category of storm, right? We had to invent a new category of rain. In fact, two. There's a rain bomb. What? And there was a river of rain. Like, these things that we never talked about really in the past. Right? I mean, I've been caught in monsoon rains, and that's a rain bomb, all right. But this is in parts of the world that had never experienced that. Extreme heat. I mean, in Europe some years ago, because Europe is not really equipped to handle heat, thousands of people died in France because of the heat stroke, etc., especially older people. There's no air conditioning. It's changing now, of course, but certainly then people were caught unawares. So there's a rapidity.
To make the point, Mickey, there wasn't a need for air conditioning.
That's exactly right. I mean, it was very, again, it's the steady state that we talk about all the time. We've been lulled into this false sense of security, where we all believe, it's a steady state world, so things will change gradually. We don't have to worry about it. I need a scarf. I'll take a scarf. I can knit a scarf. I got enough time to knit a scarf. I've got enough time to install air conditioning. No problem. Well, no, not really. I mean, some of these fires that we've experienced in Australia, and Australia is no stranger to bushfires. In fact, the fauna and the flora, sorry, more the flora than the fauna, more the plants than the animals, but the plants have evolved to take advantage of the fire. There are some plants that cannot procreate without fire. Okay, it actually leads their seed pods to explode, and then they propagate their seed that way. So some of these plants in Australia need fire. They've become adapted to it. But what we've seen recently in Australia, certainly in 2019, people forget this, Dave, because the pandemic happened right after.
That's
But
right.
2019 was the worst firestorm we had ever seen, and people had to be evacuated from the beach. Now, this is a country that is used to bushfires. We've got volunteers, firefighters. We've got all kinds of equipment. We know about bushfires, right? We're not stranger to it. But people were caught, an entire community, right? Were caught so unawares that they had to flee to the beach. They had to flee to the beach, and they had to be picked up by Navy ships and then transported to safety. Just think about that for a second.
Just like in Lahaina.
Yeah, same. Well, except nobody picked them up there from the beach.
That's right.
They were on a Navy ship.
Distinct lack of responsibility.
Hey, anyone? Anyone? Don't worry, we'll develop later. You laugh, but I think that's part of the plan. No, but really though, and now things are moving so rapidly. I mean, okay, so we have Donald Trump in power now. Is it all Donald Trump? No, it's not all Donald Trump. It can't all be Donald Trump. Of course it isn't. That's stupid, right? There's the reason America is in the trouble it's in is because the two major parties have failed America in the same way that our major parties are failing us in Australia. And wherever you've got a two-party or, God forbid, one-party system, a one-party system actually works better in many ways than two-party. But wherever you've got like a two-party equivalent system, you can see the cracks because it no longer represents the people. It just doesn't. And we're seeing it happening more and more, right? And certainly the state of America right now cannot be blamed on Donald Trump. That would be a foolish thing to do. Is he doing anything to make it better? Not really. Are the Democrats doing anything to make it better? No, they're not. All they're doing is sniping at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's all they're doing. Now, one thing I find a little worrying, Dave, and I really want to know what you think about this. So police deals with riots and all that. That's normal. Tick in the box. Okay, tick. Yeah, got that. National Guard can be called out in times of national emergency, like fires, earthquakes, but even riots. It's not unusual to get the National Guard out. It is unusual to get the National Guard out if the state governor didn't ask for it. That's unusual. Mm-hmm. But okay, what is highly unusual, in fact, not even legal in many ways because of posse comitatus, is the deployment of regular military troops, like
and
the
Marines protecting the core of the ice building.
So to be clear, that is an extremely unusual movement. National Guard, yes, though but having Marines come in like regular army troops, regular military, that is actually prohibited by posse comitatus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can't do that. So that's a development that I thought was very odd. Let's call it odd, right? Because I'm not sure where this is going to lead, Dave. I really don't, because now that there's so many people with high-powered weapons on the ground, right? I mean, it just takes one misstep it doesn't matter who either. It doesn't matter who, right? But one misstep. What do you reckon?
Oh, I've got a whole bunch of this. So, number one, it isn't within what do you call a protectionist state? One that's keeping it's like Salvation. What's the other one? Churches are that. You can go and hide in there. What's it called? A sanctuary. So,
sanctuary.
There are a number of states in the US which are sanctuary states. California has declared themselves one. They're not going to pursue any illegals within their state. I get it. And I get why. I lived there. All the gardeners are from across the border. And how many are documented? Don't know. Okay, so I get the complexity is around just sweeping up illegals and setting them over the border again. I get it. What's interesting is that it isn't the state's jurisdiction to pursue illegal immigrants at all. That had me. Oh, I was like, what? No, that's a federal offense. So the federal boundary of the United States of America is the jurisdiction for capturing illegals is federal. So I've watched that occur. Newsom is saying, oh, there's not really any problem here, we've got it all under control. And then you see the footage of those Wemo cars set on fire and people throwing huge pieces of concrete and rocks at passing, federal cars. And then it starts to all deteriorate really rather fast. Now, remembering that peaceful protests are lawful. If you impede traffic, not lawful. If you cause any kind of malicious damage, that's unlawful. If you make contact with, or I suppose assault a police officer, Californian, or I think state police is what they call it, a state police officer, the federal protections that I forget the article. Is it Article 16 or something? I forget what it is. 12 or 16 means that the federal police are able to protect them or pursue those that have injured them or hurt them in any way and bring charges against them because it's a felony. It's not a misdemeanor to injure a state trooper. So I think that's very interesting, this weird mix, Meki. It's like two decks of cards, state and federal, and the state wasn't doing a tremendous job at it, and the federal decided that it was going to push the button and make it work. But when you think about how they have to work together, it's a shame that it's gotten to the point where it is, where I suppose the only calls that I heard for standing down of the citizens was from the governor and Newsom. That's it. They're like, oh, we don't really expect. It's kind of like, the weak parenting. Could you please put down the knife? It'd be better if you put the knife down. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, well, if you do the wrong thing, we're going to arrest you. And it's almost supporting their right to protest, which is fine. And I believe everyone has a right to protest. They have a right to protest lawfully. And that is within the bounds of what it means. So that is not impeding traffic, not injuring anyone or no malicious damage. And that's okay. You get your message across. Don't walk down the freeway. It's illegal to walk down the freeway on ramp and get on a freeway. It's illegal. Not allowed to do it. No one's allowed to do it anywhere. And yet the police just let them. Now, I watched the police chief, Mackie, talking about this, saying we were overwhelmed with the amount of people. Our entire police force was outnumbered 100 to 1 or 1,000 to 1 in these protests. It was huge. But these are violent protests, which, the rent-a-crowd, people who sit at home and play Xbox until, there's a protest going on. I'm going to start burning vehicles. And so now they stack on. The rioters who will, damage shop fronts, they get in it. Oh, yeah, look at that. Woo! I want to do some of that, says those types of people. And then you've got the looters. Oh, if they're smashing windows, it's a smash and grab. I didn't smash it. I'm just going to grab it. So each one of those different layers on top of what would be an ordinary protest, a peaceful protest, one that's lawful, is the worry of everyone in the world who ever organises a protest. I've been part of protests. I've been part of an organisation that created a protest, and this was just about workers' rights. A long, long, long time ago it was. So 25 years ago, I was part of one. And we knew that if rent-a-crowd is what we termed them to be, these are paid not by us, but by an agitating organisation that just wants trouble, because that'll get on the news. And they'll throw people at it. Whether or not any of those agitators are federal employees working for a 3-letter agency is another question, and which I'm not going to answer. So we were told, because we don't have 3-letter, we have 4-letter agencies in Australia for some reason. So we were told to always keep an eye out for it. We had broadcast SMS for every one of the people that we were going to be part of in the protest. And I know this isn't about me, but this is an example that allows you to understand what it's like if you're an organizer of a protest, which I never organised. It was the organisation that I worked for organised it. I was just a photographer. So that's really interesting that all of these different jurisdictions and people complaining on both sides about the lack of effect of the law enforcement or the over effect of federal law enforcement, why it should be there, why it shouldn't be there. I still have a question. Who ordered the bricks, the pallets of bricks? Who ordered the pallets of, where there's cinder blocks, as they're called in the US, to be laid out for these protesters? I think follow the money. Work out who did do. It's beyond my imagination to see, were they trying to get another Black Lives Matter protest happening? And it was the presence of the federal enforcement that put a stop to it. I remember seeing the Channel 9 reporter getting shot in the leg, intentionally shot in the leg by the person, and you can see him, and so that just got more media.
It was by the police. It was an officer.
It was a police officer, that's right.
But it was a rubber bullet. But having said that, look, I think you've got a number of different interests converging, unfortunately, at the same time, unfortunately, in a way that has now led to violence, and I don't think the violence is over quite yet. Now.
Oh, no, I agree with you. It was only 40 arrests. Yeah, it was 40 people, 40 people who still have to be processed, and one person who attempted to stop it from happening. That's the 41st person. And to have 10,000 people protesting violently is just insane.
Not really, because you have to look at the number of injuries and people killed. So nobody, thank Providence, no one has been killed. So that's a good thing, everybody. That's a really good thing. No one has been killed. But I believe that this is just a matter of time before something does happen. However, what we are seeing is Donald Trump would love nothing more, and he's tried it before, but he would love nothing more than state that this is a state of emergency. I now declare martial law. I will suspend, at least for California or LA or whatever, I will suspend whatever, and he'll do that. And he's got the Marines down there already, 700 of them. And that's a lot of Marines. So see, the thing is, I need to explain something to everybody, because most people that haven't served in the military probably don't understand this. If you're a police officer, you're trained to deal with situations a certain way. You first, actually, if you're a security guard, right, or even a bouncer in a nightclub, the first thing you do is de-escalate. That's your first job, de-escalate. If you're a bouncer in a nightclub, that's because if there's a fight in the club, nobody drinks. Your first duty is to make sure everybody keeps drinking. That's why all fights are taken outside, right? So that's as a security person in general. As a police officer, you're also there to de-escalate. Violence is the last thing you want. The last thing, the paperwork that comes with it, and my friends in the police force tell me it's horrendous. Even if you draw your firearm, it's like 50 forms. Forget about shooting, right?
That's right.
If you shoot and someone gets hurt or, God forbid, killed, that paperwork doesn't enter into the investigations. You're put on suspension. This is something you don't want in your life. That's the police, right? Now, the National Guard, which we don't really have in Australia, we've got, I guess, the reserves, but it's not the same thing.
No, it's not the same.
The National Guard, the National Guard trains. You can call them weekend warriors, but their main deployment is not for conflict situations. It's for emergency situations like storms, floods, fires, earthquakes, etc.
We call them the reserves.
National Guard is normally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's not quite the same. But the National Guard can be used as a military force, though that is not the primary training, right? It is really disaster relief.
It was part of FEMA.
Then you've got the military. Yeah. But then you've got the military. Now the military is a completely different kettle of fish. The military, and specifically if you talk about the Marines, they're trained to kill. That's their job. When they start firing the gun, that's when they start punching the clock. That's the job. The job of a soldier is to fight. That's the primary function they have. There are other functions, secondary functions, disaster relief, aid distribution, guarding, etc., and all that wonderful stuff. Sure enough, that's part of what they do. But the primary duty, the primary employment of a military person, a Marine, a Ranger, a regular army, it doesn't matter, is to be a soldier. And the first job of a soldier is to kill. That's what they do, right? So that's the fundamental difference between these different kinds of deployments of people into certain zones. If you send in the Marines, right? If you send in the Marines, you're sending a message that you're saying, okay, well, I think we're going to need to do some killing here. Okay? You don't send the Marines in to clean up. That's not. Army Engineering Corps will do that. Regular Army will do that. National Guard will do that. FEMA and so forth. They will all do that. The Marines will not do that. You send the Marines in if there's some killing to do, because that's what they're trained to do, and they do it extremely well. Do you know how the Marines win? With overwhelming firepower. Mm-hmm. That's how the Marines go in. They're not interested in a fair fight. I don't want a fair fight. Fair fight is for suckers. Okay? Overwhelming firepower. That's the Marine credo. All right? Semper Fi, always true. So that's
lucky
what we're looking at here. So to send in...
Lucky that I bring in the Air Force, because
look, that
a bit of bird,
that's Well, funnily enough, in the movie Civil War, I don't know if you've watched it yet, the president, who clearly was meant to be Donald Trump in that movie, one of the things he did, you don't see it, it's only conversations around the edges that you hear it, right? He did order the bombing of American civilians. And then that led to the cessation of California and Texas. Now, it's interesting that California is now having these kinds of issues. Texas might, I don't know. But certainly, you have to understand California is the fourth largest economy in the world by itself. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if there were a case to be made for any state of the Union to secede and secede successfully, obviously, it'd be California. California could stand on its own 2 feet. It's funny, if you look at the geography of it, it is actually separated from the rest of the United States by deserts and mountains. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to get to. Like in the olden days, getting to California was hard. You might know this, right? So there's even a geographical argument for that. But the point here is this. You send in the Marines, right? You're sending a very strong message and you're saying, okay, well, I guess there will be some killing that we need doing here. This is not just posturing. This is not just trying to intimidate. You intimidate with the National Guard because they're armed to the teeth, but they're not trained to kill like the Marines are. Okay? So that's my worry here, Dave. That is, in my opinion, again, you've got several thousand National Guard, you got the police, and you got 700 Marines. The question I have is, do we really need the Marines? And in fact, are we allowed to deploy them? on American soil in this capacity, right? And the answer is, well, probably not, because again, posse comitatus. So I think Donald Trump is pushing for confrontation. I think Donald Trump wants to start something that he can then barter or parlay into something more. Like I said, the rapidity with which these things have happened is phenomenal. We've been discussing, Dave and I, the Great Reset and how to get there, right? And we couldn't for the life of us figure out how this would happen so quickly, right? I mean, because we thought it had to happen quickly, right? Because there's a lot of Gen Xers out there. There's no way Dave or I are going to give up our possessions. We work too hard for them, right? And there's a certain ethos you have as well with, you know, just the way you view the world. I don't want to have a living, you know, wage or be part of a super state where I can't do anything, right? Live in a 15-minute city. But the way things are going now with the economy, right, and people losing jobs and uncertainty, as well as I guess the military confrontations, or, you know, generally speaking, the overall civil unrest that you can see in many places in the world. You know, I mean, the flashpoints are obviously Ukraine, Middle East, now America. You know, the flashpoints in Asia, the flashpoints in the rest of Africa. It's not a peaceful picture. And all of a sudden, the Great Reset doesn't seem so far away. The Great Reset could just be around the corner. I mean, all it would take. Now, think about this for a second. Let's say, I don't know, Donald Trump says, oh, everybody's going to pay 1,000% tariffs. Whatever. I mean, I'm exaggerating, I'm sure. But let's say he says that. And all of a sudden, you know, then you have these tariffs, the global economy crashes, right? Or at the very least, it probably won't crash, but America will now no longer be part of the global economy. Is it going to hurt? Yes. But the rest of the world will move on. The rest of the world will find other markets. And will there be unemployment? Yes. Will people lose their jobs? Yes. Will there be hardship for some time? Yes. But it's going to be America specifically that's going to suffer from this, right? If nobody wants to trade with America, right? And make no mistake, it's a lot of the things that we need in life don't come out of America anymore. They're just not made there, right? Services, yes, right? Like the next generation of things that you want to buy. You want to be a service industry. You don't want to make things anymore, right? All chips, all AI chips, all the chips, or the vast majority, are coming out of Taiwan. Okay, China is moving at light speed in producing chips, but also solar panels. I mean, literally any electric cars, anything you can think of, right? That is coming from somewhere else or whatever. China is massively investing in and rapidly gaining a very strong foothold in the world market. And all the things America is no longer doing, like US aid and other things, have now led to China being the person that does all that. By America withdrawing from the global stage, countries are opening the doors.
It's opening the door. That's right. Yeah, 100%.
It is.
So, Mackie, part of the destruction, I'm still going to use the term managed decline. The managed decline of our economies, except for America breaking free of this in some way, we'll see how that turns out. But Australia has, in the last 9 months, had 8 months of negative GDP per person. So there's only 1 month, and that was December, where we had Christmas sales that brought up us into positive territory. So formally, 2 quarters is all it took for a recession to be called, but it wasn't GDP per person. And what this has done now, we have an immigration policy which is off the charts. You think, you know, America's border was heavy to immigration, undocumented. We have we've allowed an amazing amount of foreigners into the country. I'm not anti-foreigners. I'm not anti-immigration. Just their numbers make our numbers look better. But if you divide the economy by the amount of people, it's worse. And so you mentioned this, Mackie, which it always excites me, and that is the Great Reset. I'm in a position now where I would accept it. I don't want it. I don't want to live in a 10 or 15 minute city and can't drive my car, because that would be bad. I'd have to not eat for a week to drive my car.
Because you're Gen Xer. That's why, brother.
That's absolutely right. Why? And so each one of these things that are happening around the world, and we're watching them all. We've got till December before the digital management of our online presence becomes enacted, and then it's only a short hop, step, and jump, Becky. In fact, it's just a jump into full-blown digital currency. And 100%. So it doesn't take much. Yes.
No,
2 steps.
No, but once you're there, and this is the funny thing is this. I think the whole cryptocurrency threw a spanner in the works there, right? Mm-hmm. For the globalists, let's call them globalists. Let's do that. The parasites, because that's what we wanted to do, but not like that. Because once you go digital, right? Once cash is outlawed, and I have cash at home. I keep I keep emergency cash on my person because you never know.
He's got a dollar coin. Right? He's got a gold dollar coin in his shoe. That's what he has.
You better believe it. And because I've been caught in situations where I went to the shops. Mm-hmm. In fact, this happened to me. What's today? Today's
2 weeks
Tuesday,
ago.
right?
Mm-hmm.
No. This happened to me on Sunday.
Oh,
like two days ago. I went somewhere and I think I want to say it was food. I was gonna bakery. That's right. I went to the German bakery in the city, and I bought some bread rolls. Okay, now this was inside. This wasn't like some pop-up shop. This was a bakery, and I went in there and I tried to use my card, and they all sorry it didn't work. Oh, sorry. So my card, no, our internet is down. Do you have cash? Now I so happen to have cash on me, so I said fine, I can buy. Yeah, sure. Because if you don't have cash in that situation, you can't buy anything.
That's right.
There's no IOU, so you have to have cash. And other times, Dave, do you remember when I think it was the Combank that had a huge outage, right?
They did
here in Australia, and shops. I mean, they had to close entire shopping centers.
That's right,
because they couldn't trade anymore. And some shops, and this is funny because it's actually illegal. Some shops are no longer equipped to take cash, which I find hilarious. Mm-hmm. So, but as soon as you move away from cash and you say cash is illegal, worse. I mean, if you phase cash out, but you're still allowed to use it, then so be it. But if you make cash illegal, that's a whole different ballgame. And all of a sudden, you're living in a world where you have very little control anymore. Because if the computer says you have no money in the bank, guess what? You have no money in the bank.
And it's
terrifying.
A denial of access to the money you do have. Think about social crediting. So if we have a show. If you say the wrong thing, that could go against you. What do you mean if? What do you mean if? Yeah. If you say the wrong thing. If you were to say the wrong thing, upset the wrong person, suddenly there's a complaint, and then you don't have access to the money that you do have. And that same situation would occur. You go to use your card to buy a loaf of bread, and they say, sorry, it says no.
Yeah. Now, Dave, Dave and I have experienced what happens in this scenario. Mm-hmm. Now, not to the extent that we had any vital services denied to us, but this is what happened to us. We posted shows, and in the shows, YouTube said, "Oh, you said certain things that violate community standards."
That's right.
Okay, so we listened to the shows, and Dave spent a lot of time listening, and he tried to figure out what it was. So he objected, right? And I did the same thing for another show. I objected. I think altogether 3 or 4 shows or something like that were taken off YouTube and I don't know, just deleted. Who knows? But essentially, there's no recourse because we went back, and Dave did it a number of times. I only did it once, but Dave did it a number of times. He argued the case, but ultimately, there's no one left to argue with because it's an algorithm that picked something up that we're talking about, right? And there are ways around it. Now we know how to do that, but you have no recourse. You have nowhere to go for your complaint. If you go to the shop and you buy a loaf of bread, and there's a dead mouse inside, I go back to the shop and say, there's a dead mouse in my loaf of bread. I want my money back. And the shop goes, fair enough, here's your money back. Okay? In the digital world, it is becoming increasingly difficult to complain and to have situations rectified. And in China,
yes, no, the law says, our laws say you have the right to meet your accuser.
Yeah,
so
100%. And good luck to you with this.
And it doesn't happen because we were accused in our intro of breaking community standards. It was 4 seconds.
Yeah.
At the 4-second mark, we were still talking about, you should buy merchandise from the station's website. What?
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense, and I'm presuming here that it wasn't an algorithm, that it was a person that didn't like us. And went, look, we don't want that on there. It doesn't. But who? Yeah. Who said that, and why could it not be complained against? Why couldn't we say, that's complete rubbish? No, we didn't say anything.
Yeah, but see, the bit economy that we've created, and the Revolution Radio, and what we do here is part of the new bit economy, or the new undercurrent of computerized economic transactions, where you don't have any recourse. But just take it one step further. In China, they now have, or for a while have now got something that is called social credit. Mm-hmm. So people essentially can like or dislike you. Like if you order an Uber and you like the service, you probably give them 4 stars or 5 stars or whatever, and leave a nice comment, and that way that person will get more business. That's how the algorithm works. In the social, the social credit system, it's the same. If someone says good morning to you, and they smile at you or whatever, and they give you the seat in the bus, then you might say, oh, that's really a nice person. I don't know how it works. They take a picture of you. I have no idea how it works. But the point is, they can give you a social credit score. Now, in the extreme, and I watched this science fiction parody show, in the extreme, in that show, which is not real, it led to executions. If your social credit is low enough, you will be. It wasn't Star Trek. It was the parody of Star Trek, and I forget what it's called. It's more Star Trek than Star Trek.
Yeah.
The guy who made Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane, right? Yeah. Anyway, but so and what is it's about production value of that show? It's more Star Trek than most of the Star Trek shows that are out now.
So it really is. So that was trial by social media.
Yeah. So now, can this? Of course, it can happen. Of course, it could happen. Or at the very least, these days, I think the most the harshest consequences are that you can't travel. I think your travel permissions are revoked or some such. I think that's how far it goes. But in China, especially, which is an authoritarian country, okay, it's doing well, right? It's doing well because it can make 10, 20, 30, 50-year plans, which very few other countries can do. And it controls a lot of things very tightly. It's doing pretty well in many ways, right? And there are more billionaires in China than anywhere else in the world now. That's also a thing. So China is not really a communist country anymore. It's an authoritarian regime. Communism, just like capitalism, died a long time ago. They both died, right? They thought they had something, didn't work out, and they both committed suicide. That's what happens. Gone. Capitalism, communism, gone. And so they have the wherewithal. They've got the I guess they have the willpower as well. To actually pull this through, to become a socially credited society. They're working on these cities. You look at Hong Kong. That's a 15-minute city. If you live in Hong Kong anywhere you need to go is within 15 minutes of your apartment block. It has to be.
Yeah, I can go.
It has to be because Hong Kong builds up.
That's right.
Yeah,
the show's called The Orville.
It's horrendous. Orville, that's it. That's exactly right, The Orville. Tremendous show. If you love Star Trek, like the old style Star Trek, Picard and Kirk and whatnot, I recommend this. It's really a really great show. But you see, what Dave has just described, the logical consequence or the logical extension of that thinking is that we will live in a social credit society. And that social credit society might then be linked to bonuses. Oh, today you can buy bananas. Oh, you can't. You've been bad. Or maybe your children, because you've been a good citizen, your children are now allowed to go into more into higher education, into better education, better healthcare, maybe better healthcare, right? Better food, better living quarters.
Starship Troopers, Citizen.
Yes, yeah, you had to have served. Yes, sir.
And the other one, the policeman who dies ends up being in a machine. What's it
RoboCop.
called? RoboCop. So both of those advertised that being a good citizen was the best control of the people, because your rewards, your rewards for being a good citizen in those environments were you had a happy life.
Yes, and you know what that is? What you just described, like the whole thing. That's the panopticon.
That's right.
Because in that scenario, right, you police yourself.
Yeah.
You think you're being constantly watched, and you're probably being watched. You probably are being watched, right? And I mean, the camera's everywhere.
Yeah,
but maybe nobody cares. But you don't do it because you are being watched, right? So you police yourself. There's a fantastic book by Robert Sheckley. It's called The Status Civilization.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't read it, you have to read Robert Sheckley's The Status Civilization. In that book, it's a short book, it's a novel, right? And but within it, the self-policing was taken to the next level, right? You have to read the book. I'm not giving anything away because it's just a fantastic book to read, even if you know what happens. But what they do, they're the secret classes that children go to, Dave, right? Mm-hmm. And in the secret classes, no one knows what happens. They're there with a robot teacher, right? An artificial intelligence, right? And it turns out in the end, what happens there, they're being brainwashed, indoctrinated to become self-policing. So it's almost like a split personality. Mm-hmm. So this guy saw someone being killed, right? And the policeman inside his head himself, right? His split personality, looked at all the evidence around, right? The gun, the dead body, then himself, and decided the evidence was strong enough to arrest himself and ship him off to a prison planet called Omega. Mm-hmm. Now, he didn't commit the crime, but his I guess his police self, his inner policeman, looked at the evidence and decided that, yeah, in fact, he had committed the crime. Now, is this possible in reality? The answer is yes. Because Dave and I just finished a show cycle on mind control, right? And all the things we can achieve with that, even now, even 80 years ago, even 80 years ago. And imagine what we can do now, right? But is this possible? Yes, absolutely it's possible. This is a future that is absolutely possible, where we become self-policing. Police force is no longer necessary. Everybody is their own policeman or woman.
Big Brother is watching.
That's terrifying, Dave. But you are Big Brother.
That's right.
You are he. You are he. You know what? What? I mean, the parasites, of course, would love nothing more, because you don't need security guards at this point anymore. You don't.
Yeah.
You just
Well, we have
great.
algorithms now, and some countries have more CCTV than I would like to admit even exists on the planet, and no one said anything. Remember this.
I know.
This resistance that we don't have, the apathy towards it doesn't matter. It's only if you're doing something wrong. That's the same digital police. So everything that we do online from at least 10 years ago is now in Australia, is now there for any law enforcement to be able to go through they call it metadata, because it sounds like, the metadata of a web page. It's harmless. There's got to be nothing in there. I swear, Meki, to be honest, that it would be like when Neo, for me, it would be like when Neo is first captured by Agent Smith, and he slides this massive thing and slowly undoes the cotton and opens it. He goes, "It seems like you've been living two lives, Mr. Anderson," right?
Mr. Anderson.
One where you're a good person and it's very thin, and then there's the big pile of all the wrongs that he was doing. I feel as though digitally, when we get to that point, that'll be an AI. Because remember that Agent Smith was an AI. So there'll be an AI that has already predetermined or watched as you've gone down the path. And I suppose like a bait car that the police use in America to capture people who steal cars by parking it with the engine running and the door open and the keys in it. And whoever steps in it, they just arrest them because you just stole a car. Oh no, I was taken to the police station. No, you weren't. So just like that, by watching someone progress into it, you have to admit to yourself that a pre-crime of walking the path, does that make you guilty? Is it the final act that they go, oh, we were right the whole time. We were right 4 years ago when you started posting these memes that you would always go down this path. It's the same as humanity was always destined to make an AI from the time that we used a stick to get honey out of a beehive. We used a tool. We were always going to enhance those tools that we have to our disposal. And right now, I'm so surprised. VEO3 is insane. It looks believable. Have you seen, Mackie, have you seen those Bigfoot things? Have you seen the babies? Like Jeremy Clarkson is a baby talking to his gardener or whatever, his mechanic.
Oh yeah,
have you seen,
I've seen that.
Have you seen Kev the Bigfoot with Australian accent?
No.
And he's walking through the bush. It looks real, and he's got like a 360 camera on a stick, like a GoPro on a stick, and he's commenting out loud what he's going to do and what there is, and he kneels down and has a look, and there's the human footprints. Oh, it's hilarious. So it's so funny, and it looks so real that I know it's not real. There aren't Bigfoot going, they're Bigfoots, big feet. There's no Bigfoots going through the wilderness with 360 cameras. They just aren't.
Not likely.
And they're not posting on Facebook.
Not likely.
Not today, Satan, right? But that's how I'm able to discern what's real and what isn't real, is by knowing it isn't real. Does that make sense?
Of course.
And at some point, we're going to get so close to it being an event being displayed to us on television live that we're incapable of discerning whether it's real or AI driven.
The tech is there now. We have the tech in order to make it in fact in real time, right?
Yeah, real time.
We can now in real time to make anything happen. And you out there in viewer world will not know the difference between fake and real. That's why I keep saying in the future, when it comes to court cases, etc., the only video or photographic evidence that will be admissible will be chemical prints. That's it.
Yeah, 100%.
Forget digital. No good. Yep. No good. And ideally like a Edison wax spiral to record the sound.
Hang on, right? I've got one right here. You know.
Just out of my pay. Here you go. No, seriously though, because this. I mean, is there a guarantee that it will be real? There's no guarantee, but it's going to be a lot harder to produce a fake chemical film, be it video.
Yeah,
analog.
That's right.
Be it film or still, it doesn't matter. So, but that's where it will go. That's where it will go. There's no other way to do it because they talk about watermarks in digital art and AI created things.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. And then someone's gonna remove the watermark. I mean, how hard would that be? Seriously.
I know, right?
Guys. It's like, no. Once we walk down this road, all authenticity is out the window.
It's gone.
You walk down it's gone. Once you walk down the AI creation of anything, right, including live news that didn't actually happen, all authenticity, all truth goes out the window. Sorry, that's what's going to happen. Oy vey.
100% crazy.
Guess I have to pay attention to my camera, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just seeing if I can find it. I can't find it. Sorry.
How much time do we have?
We have 2 minutes and counting.
Oh, that's not okay. Look, I do want to say quickly that it is important to support the station if you can. Please donate if you can. If you can't donate, that's cool. I dig it. Things are tough all over, but maybe you can tell people about the station. That would be good. Just come and listen, and the more people listen to the station, the better it is. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, leave a comment. It actually helps us a lot. We've had a huge uptick since we started posting the shorts, which is fantastic. So thank you so much.
200 over what we used
I
to
know.
see. Yeah.
So thank you so much, everybody out there that has taken a moment to click on us and
You can't
and
shoot
watch
me,
what
I'm not
we had
black enough.
to offer. Anybody who
Alright, so I
clicks
think
to
the
our
locals like
site,
this thing.
even better. Even if you come to the station, that's awesome too. But thank you very much for clicking on our content. It does help us, and maybe one day we'll be able to do this full time. That would be awesome. I'd love to do that. But yeah, so again, keep up the good work. Keep clicking, keep liking, keep commenting if you do, and maybe sharing. Sharing is good. If you want to share it out, that would be awesome. Dave puts a lot of work into the shorts. We're using AI. I want to be open here. We are using AI to create the shorts, which has taken a lot of work out of the whole thing. Because the one thing that we always try to do is get a sizzle reel or some little shorts, but the actual physical work we couldn't do because we're both, family men with other activities in our lives, believe it or not. So, but with AI, that has taken a lot of the heavy lifting out of it. So, and I do appreciate everybody looking at it and clicking it and liking it. That's really great. Now, I think we're coming to the end of our this.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. This has been Platos Cave. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully this was entertaining, maybe even a little educational. That'd be nice. Don't go anywhere. Something else is going to come up that's going to be awesome. But most of all, Dave,
be safe, everyone.